Welcome to Sacred Space Yoga with Carol Ann, and I'm of course Carol Ann. This is my dear friend Mandy Zingarasu. That is a mouthful to say. I want to tell you a little secret about Mandy. She is probably the most natural marketer I've ever known in my life. She has, because she's from South Africa, and Mandy is a dear friend from South Africa, and because she has a whole other continent basically following her. Now she has another one here. Everything she does is like liquid gold, let me tell you. And I'm not doing this to say this to, I'm just saying she's so beautifully, naturally marketing because, my God, look at her, first of all. And then she's very healthy, so she has health habits that she'll mention, and as soon as she mentions it, boy, everybody's looking to see what it is, and that's just because it's who you are. There's nothing wrong with that. I mean, there's nothing wrong with it. So you might want to look her up at some point if she'll allow that, and if she will, she'll let us know, and follow her because she posts some awesome stuff. First of all, she's got beautiful little family here in Southern Illinois, and but the most important part of that is that she is a person that I like to think about, and maybe one of the things I liked about this is because I was 27 when I started getting physically fit, and you were in your 30s.
Yes.
And I will tell you guys, I'm 64 years old, and I'm very proud of the fact of how healthy and strong that I am at my age.
And she's amazing.
Yeah, thank you. Didn't pay her to say that at all. But, you know, the whole point, guys, it doesn't matter what age that we start at, but, you know, you're going to have advantages of starting younger. So Mandy's a great example for me to use. She started young. She's very young still, and she'll continue on because I know her well enough to know that. So we'll get moving on a little bit. So Mandy, I got a couple ask. Is there any difference between how yoga is presented in South Africa than it is here in America? Or?
I think it's different, like from gym to gym or yoga studio to
same
yoga studio, but really it's
yeah.
the same format, and if you're doing a yenga or a stanga,
Right.
it's the same format. It might look a little bit different
That's
when
right.
you're doing it, but
Yeah, that's
So-
right. Well, it's a great point that she brings up because yoga is universal, you know, and but one of the things that I like about what she said is that the pattern there is no different than it is here.
Exactly.
You know, it depends on the teacher. Every teacher is different. But I do know a little bit of a secret about what Mandy likes. She really likes meditation things to think about.
yes.
So that is awesome because honestly, Mandy, most people when they think about yoga, they think about just the asana
Doing
or the
pose,
posture.
Yes.
Well, the posture is part of it, but it is not what we're looking or searching for.
Yes.
And that's a lot of the shift that we find in culture around the world now, because people are posting their things that they can do that most people may not ever even be able to achieve. You know, every body is different. Some people work very hard over a long period of time to achieve certain postures, while others naturally can do it. And so that creates a problem in itself because we want to remember that yoga is has a very sacred lineage.
Yes.
Not a
It's not a competition.
It's not a competition. Exactly
Yes.
right. It's not a competition.
It's not competitive. For me, yoga is peace.
Is peace.
It's
Oh,
about
love it.
It's just about finding peace, finding balance. I mean, if I want a full cardio, sweat, crazy, be competitive with myself, I could do any other type of sport. For
Right.
me, yoga is about finding mental peace.
Mental
and
peace.
inner peace, and just finding your breath and taking a breath and just relaxing in the moment.
Isn't that wonderful? She's saying just breathe.
Just
And,
breathe.
and that's basically what yoga is. You know,
Yes.
Before asana, people sat and meditated. They
Yes.
sat first, and then after they sat for a while, then they started to learn how to
breathing.
meditate and breathing.
Breathing.
Exactly
Yoga,
right.
I think people always think yoga is just this one thing. It's just stretching and
Mhm.
holding poses for a while.
Right,
That's just
right.
one limb of yoga.
Exactly
There's
right.
many different limbs, and
Mhm.
for me, the one that I take the most out of is the meditative, relaxing, peaceful side.
Oh, that's wonderful. That's how. And Mandy probably knows this, but actually, originally I got into yoga because of my back.
Yes.
So years back, I was in my 20s, and I was under a neurologist and a neurosurgeon's care because I had just some horrible back and neck issues that would have brought me surgery. And so I'd already been kind of doing yoga a little bit, but then, boom, you talk to a neurologist or a neurosurgeon one time and you're gonna make some serious changes about what you do. So I did that.
Yes.
I changed that. And so, but, I mean, and I think you know this too, but you may not. For me, I practiced only because of the asana or the posture for a long time, probably 10 or 11 years.
Yes.
And what that did for me is, yes, it gave me a physically strong body, but I never made the mental connection until a trauma had occurred in my family. I had a particular series of events of trauma that I found that on my mat, I had 1 hour where I could get away from that, and it was my salvation, actually. It was my mental salvation. And that was probably one of the most difficult times in my life, and that particular trauma, it lasted for 11 years. The repercussions of what happened in our family lasted for 11 years. So I was shifted from asana into the mental, and that is the thing. The mental should be first, actually, and the asana later, but there's nothing wrong with us beginning with posture, because that's part of it as well.
Well, for me, I started with yoga probably about 20 years ago in a little town called Jeffreys Bay, which is like a small surfing village in South Africa. It's very well known among surfers because it's probably got the best wave in the world.
Right?
And yoga was like a fun, exciting new buzzword.
Yeah.
You know, it's like, oh, yoga, do you do yoga? So it was also for me more physical and more because it was cool.
Mm-hmm.
But I had the most amazing yoga teacher there, Marie Stander, and I'm sure I will tag her on this video so she can see this. And she really opened my eyes to yoga, not just to all the physical poses, but the breathing exercises, the meditation. And I was really at my happiest doing that sport or activity.
Right.
And then as the years have gone on, I've moved, I've changed, you change, all sorts of things happen and life happens.
Yeah.
But whenever I'm stressed or I'm feeling just out of touch with myself, I always think back to when was I happiest? What brought me the most joy or the most peace? Because I think that's what we're all searching for,
Yes,
this peace. What brought me the most peace? And it's always yoga. So even though I don't get to do more the physical side of yoga like some of your other classes just because of timing, the most important class to me is the yin class because of what it does for my mental space. And you can look absolutely fantastic. I could look like a Sports Illustrated model. You can look incredible, but if your mind is not healthy, you are not healthy. Because when I was going through this whole coronavirus thing, the whole of last year, I suffered such terrible anxiety and panic attacks, and just I was having a bit of a breakdown for myself personally. And the first thing you reach out for me, is God.
Yes,
Like
absolutely.
getting back in touch with God, having a relationship there, and that's almost the way that God pulls you back in. He gives you these struggles to get closer to you. And then yoga.
Yeah.
And if you looked at my body then compared to my body now, back then I looked fantastic. I had a six-pack happening, I was in the gym 6 days a week. It was like, that was becoming a religion to me.
Yes.
And I was missing out on the mental side of things. So I may have looked one way physically, but mentally I was not well. And yoga gave it back to me. So I'm forever grateful to yoga.
I know you, and I will tell you, hand to God, this was unscripted. We are hearing exactly what she's thinking at this moment.
Yes, there's no paperwork
There's
here.
no paperwork here. She couldn't have said it better. Because this is another reason why I wanted to use Mandy, because I know how she thinks to some degree. You know, we've gotten to be friends the last couple of years, and she's a wonderful human being. I know that, but I learn a lot from her, and I'm grateful for that. So this brings us to the next. She mentioned yin class. Now, yin is basically for the mental release and also for increasing flexibility by releasing connective tissue and also strengthening connective tissue for the body. So today, what I'm going to show you, and what Mandy is going to demonstrate, is some yin postures that you can do at home, just for that very purpose. We're also going to talk a little bit about a meditation practice before we start, and then I'm going to offer her some affirmations while she's in her posture, some things that she can actually meditate on in a yin class. Mandy comes to the yin class here here in the barn, or in the cave, I guess, as I've called it, but
The most beautiful setting, candles everywhere, soft music.
yeah.
It's just incredible.
Reiki, a little bit of
A
Reiki
little bit of
touch.
Reiki,
Yep, it's
the most
wonderful.
incredible people that we get to practice
Yes,
with.
that's exactly right.
Just a really caring community.
That's exactly right. If you hear that, that's ice. Let me tell you, I love what you can't see is over the last, since Monday, we got an additional 12 to 15 inches of snow on the ground. And yeah, I actually have snow on the outside of the barn here that's melting and coming inside. So the carpet is getting wet and that kind of thing. I've had to move some of my stuff up a little bit. All my books I had to take in the house and put them in front of the gas stove so I could dry them out. Oh, that's okay, that just makes it a little more weather.
Really well used.
Really well used, yeah. So she likes the yin for the release of anxiety. And we'd actually talked about that because she has already admitted to us that she suffered a lot with anxiety due to COVID. And that's one thing that she and I have in common.
And I think a lot of people.
A lot of people do. I had an immense amount when I first started doing Facebook Live. It was fine, but the more I went, anything that ran in front of my path or in front of, in front of my baby, the window or noise, I would completely lose and forget what sequences I was in. And it's from that disconnect. And
I think it's because your brain is so busy worrying.
yeah, it's worrying. And I'm a yoga teacher, I'm supposed to know how to control it. Well, let me tell you, we all are human, and this has been a hit. I did great actually for the first 6 weeks of shutdown. We had 11 weeks here in Illinois of shutdown, and I did good for the first 6. And I thought, I can do this for 6 because my brain was thinking 6 weeks and we'll be done with it or whatever. Right at the end of the 6th week, our governor here announced 5 more, and I went into absolute panic attack. At that moment, I even told my husband, I can't do this. I'm sorry. I got to go somewhere. And then I'm like, I have nowhere to go. Everywhere's the same way. I got to get out of here. It was that run. It was that fight or flight. Fight or flight. And boy, I was ready to go. I own a house in another state. I could go if I wanted to, but I know they're all closed down.
Same thing wherever you go.
Same thing wherever you go. And I will say, if you want to send out some light and love and some prayers to South Africa, they've had a terrible, terrible time with COVID there. And some strains that haven't been here in America, from what I understand.
Well, from what I understand, they actually have been picked up in America. I think what's actually happened is that strain has been recognized for the first time in South Africa, so now it's the South African strain.
I got you.
But it is in other parts of the world, but it will forever be the South African strain.
Okay, I got you. Well, there you go. You gotta do something, give you a label.
The China virus.
The China, but yeah, exactly right. All those things are incorrect. This is, this is a worldwide situation. It could have happened one place over the other. It just happened. It's pattern. We go back 100 years and we have the Spanish flu. And this is not a flu. We're not saying that, but like a pandemic kind of situation. So we are living
through a pandemic.
and
trying
you are
to keep
too.
our minds.
And trying to keep. So hopefully she and I can quit laughing long enough to help you, but I don't know. We like to have fun. She's
Laughing's good for you.
Yeah. She has some awesome little idioms that she says. I know I got sick a year ago and was in the hospital for just a weird bacterial infection. And she said, when you get sick, you really go for the badge. And I've never forgotten that.
Go for your badge.
Go for the badge. So I tell people that all the time. Oh, she's going for the badge. They don't know what I'm saying, but it's
I know what you
inspired
mean.
by her. Yeah. All right, so we're going to go ahead and get started a little bit. And again, we're going to do a little bit of meditation. We'll do a few yin postures that anybody can do at home. Now, I do have blocks out and ready for Mandy, but you don't have to. If you don't have blocks at home, that's perfectly fine. You can use rolled up towels or blankets, just roll them up. So you never have to have these blocks, but if you find them on sale somewhere, go ahead and get them because they're really handy to have. But we're going to have those for her today as well. So we're going to go ahead and get started in a little bit of breath work first. Anxiety, she brought this out. My guru, which I don't think I'm supposed to really mention his name, but I said that story for a minute. Anyway, he actually showed me his own personal get rid of stress or anxiety kind of breath practice, and he did it for the point of all the different breath practices that we learn, aren't just designed for us to come and sit down in a meditation place. Like, you guys know that I have a meditation spot here. They're not designed for that. They're designed for us to have basically the tools in our toolbox to use at any given moment. So my guru, Tony, he showed me the other day some of his practice by mixing different breaths in. And I'm gonna kind of give a little demo and then we'll do it
Yes.
together, okay? So what Tony showed me is he went through a series of things that made so much sense to me for meditation for anxiety. Because he went, and then he started doing Kapalabhati breath, and I don't know if you could, let me get on my knee a little bit for Kapalabhati, but you can watch my belly maybe from the side, is in and out breath very, very quickly. Kapalabhati, and then he said, and then he went, all right, all of the things that I just did are all breath practices that we learn. When we go, that's a lion's breath. That's a deep breath and a very strong, forceful out breath, the Kapalabhati. So after my guru showed me these kind of things, he said, and then what I do is I sit and I inhale through my nose, slightly part the lips, exhaling through the mouth, and concentrate on the heart center slowing down. And it was amazing to me. It
Well,
was
just seeing you doing all of those now,
yeah.
that's when I'm feeling stressed, I can make those breaths just because I'm so
Just
stressed.
because,
And like,
yeah.
because you are in that
Exactly
fight or
right.
flight mode.
You are,
So
oh, she caught right on. That's what I did when he was telling me this. Oh my gosh,
I
this is
do
something
that.
we do naturally.
Yes, naturally.
Yeah, we naturally, whoo, you know, when we're
Yes,
exhausted
yes.
or if we're very anxious, we're
Your
starting
heart
to
is
breathe.
racing and-
Yes, so we have to learn to do that. And so we can use the various things that our bodies naturally do to bring those into a place where we get rid of our anxiety, and then we can kind of settle down.
Slow your heart rate
And
down.
slow the heart rate down and calm and breathe. And so then he showed me, then after a bit of it, he's like, because what happens after we calm down, we can start, after a few minutes of peace, we can start to worry or let that thought turn around in our head again, and then we start doing it again. So then we repeat the process. So Mandy and I are gonna do a little bit of a weird, odd thing. We're just gonna sit over here for a few breaths. Let's say we start to have some kind of anxiety. We're just gonna make whatever noises we want to do. We can, it's all good.
It might be nervous laughter.
That's exactly. It might be nervous laughter, but but we'll do a little bit of that, and then we'll kind of just like settle and inhale through the nose, exhale out the mouth, let the thought come to the center of the heart, visually slowing the heart down. And we don't have to do this very long, but just this is a good general practice. And if you don't want to do the funny part, I'll do it again, but
Maybe I'll leave all of it.
See, she just did it without even knowing. I did this with a class this morning, and none of them did it. They watched me do it. They're like, okay, we got the idea of it. You know what? If you're at home and you got this, nobody's watching you.
Exactly.
Yeah, so, I don't want to think about anything anxious to make myself do
I
this.
also don't want to do that.
So we're going to pretend that we're in this very, very stressful situation, and I'm going to close my eyes, and maybe Maggie wants
I
to
will do that
too, and then just dig, inhale, blow it out. Now maybe we'll start to just think about that inhaling into the nose. Softly open the mouth, breathe out. Think about slowing down the heart. We took a few rounds of those. You guys do it with this at home. Very effective.
Yes.
Doing that, I already feel like,
I
okay,
feel like,
I'm gonna chill out. Yeah,
ooh.
exactly right. But the point is, if the anxiety rises again,
You know what to do.
I will tell you that some years back, when I was going through some of my struggle, I would have such bad panic attacks at work. that I would retreat to the bathroom. I know everybody thought, that girl pees more than anybody ever known. But hey,
How much water does she
I
drink?
know, I would want a gallon a day, by the way, but anyway. I would have to retreat, because that was the only place I could find anybody by myself to breathe and to catch my breath. And I'm telling you, that's a good little thing to think about, because if you work with a lot of other people and you don't want them to know your business, or you don't want them to see you fall apart, exit yourself.
Yes.
Go outside, make an
Get some
errand to the
breath.
car, go to the bathroom, go into some quiet room somewhere and do whatever you have to do to calm yourself down.
And when I was going through my anxiety this last year, I actually did speak with a therapist.
Okay.
And she gave me some fantastic tips with anxiety.
Okay, go ahead.
So basically, when you are feeling really anxious or you're having a panic attack, breath,
Uh-huh.
you need to stop and breathe.
Right.
And you need to breathe in for a comfortable count, not so that you feel like you are
Right.
completely overinflating your
Right.
lungs, but if it's to the count of 6 or 5, then all you're closing your eyes, you can put your hand on your chest and your tummy,
Yep.
and you basically just breathe in to the count of 6, you hold your breath for say 2 counts, and then you breathe out to the count of 6, and then you continue doing that for 6 counts. And you will just, your heart rate will lower. It's just to bring you back to where you are at, and while you're doing that, try and think of, what can I smell?
Yeah.
What can I see? What can I feel?
Right.
It's just to bring your senses back to exactly where you are, and that you're not in danger. Because your mind and your heart is racing as if you're in danger.
Yeah.
So the breath is super important in
It is.
anxiety.
It is. She just said exactly what all the things go on. You know, we have the 4-count breath here.
Yes.
Sometimes we have a 4-count breath. We inhale on count of 4, hold for count of 4, exhale 4, hold 4. Some rounds of that. So she already described that. And those can be changed. Those count can be changed.
Whatever
That's
is
pretty comfortable for most
whatever's
people. The
comfortable
4
for
count.
you. Yep.
Right, and, you know, and so that is yoga, folks, that is yoga. And she also talked about connecting with the present moment. When we start, very often in yoga classes, we start with that, how, give quality to the breath, you know, do we feel cold air or warm air when we breathe, or inhale or exhale? What sounds travel to us as opposed to us listening? So all those things are part of yoga, so she has a great counselor about it, and it's not me, I don't know who it is, I'm not gonna ask her, so.
You said something in one of the yoga classes, we did a whole session, I think it was in the barn, and you spoke about life happens in the pause
That's
of the
right.
breath. And
Yeah.
that's always stayed with me, that's
Yeah.
like inscribed in my brain,
That's
because
right.
it's 100% true.
Absolutely.
You are only alive if you're breathing, and you need your breath to live,
Yep.
but your life is literally happening in between those pauses,
That's
and it's
exactly
just,
right. I know, it's such a beautiful, I didn't make it up, I wish I could have, but somebody
But
did along the way.
well, to me you did, so I
Okay.
heard it from you.
Yeah, life happens in the pause, you know, we have a natural pause in between each inhale and exhale, but we don't notice it unless we're doing an organized breath or doing a breath practice. So because we never know when our last breath will be or when our next breath will be, life happens in between breaths. It happens in the pause, so that's wonderful. I'm glad that I was able to share something
Yes, that stuck with me, will always forever be with me.
That's awesome.
Thank you.
I told you she was awesome. I tell people that. I just love her. I love her. She's been a great friend to me. And I have a daughter her age, you know, so I could be her mom. I'm not, you know. I would be if, you know,
Well,
she
you
had
just
one.
as contestant.
And 2 wonderful, beautiful children. All right, so Mindy, we're going to go ahead and get started. So Mandy is going to use the 2 blocks here. And because I want her to focus a little bit longer on the breath, we're going to come into a supported fish pose, but with our legs extended out.
Okay.
So, yep, she knows exactly what to do. So she's putting 1 block high, and 1 block maybe, I think that's 3 to 4 inches in front of it. This block is gonna go between her shoulder blades. And if it's up too high or down too low, you're gonna know it and just adjust as quickly as you can. Now, she has an option. She can let her legs be this way. If it's more comfortable for her to bend her knees and place the soles of the feet on the floor, that's perfectly fine. She could even add the butterfly pose in, but it doesn't really matter, you know, in whatever she wants to work. Now in this, she has this beautiful chest lift here. And in the chest lift, what happens with chest lifts, her breathing is more open. Her beautiful, beautiful posture here. This particular block on the medium setting is right between her shoulder blades. If you get it down too low, you're gonna feel what I call, it feels skeevy or wiggly. You're not gonna be very comfortable. It's gonna hit a nerve of some sort, so you'll know. If it's up too high, you're also gonna kind of feel some pinching. So we just wanna make sure that that's right between the shoulder blades. The block is on the highest setting, so her neck is not craning back, but it's nice and relaxed here. So in a yin posture, we might hold this for 5 to 7 minutes. So during this time, Mandy is just going to be breathing a natural breath here. So she's not doing ujjayi, she's not doing, but what she is doing is she's breathing fully on the inhale and fully on the exhale and softening into those shoulders. So one thing that we might suggest during this, whenever we have the class out here, I'm certified Reiki, so sometimes I'm not doing a full Reiki, of course, because you would be on a table for that. But I do some light remembrance touching. So sometimes I just kind of run the hands through the hair a little bit if people aren't anxious about that, you know. And so it's really, I want her very, very relaxed here to relieve that anxiety. And if I notice any kind of position of her body that may be inhibited because the props aren't proper, then I would go ahead and kind of adjust that for her. But this posture here, she's working several things. First of all, if she's relaxing in, she's softening her mind. So she's relieving herself of anxiety. She's working into the shoulders, and because she's chosen Baddha Konasana, the feet come together, and so she's working into the hips as well. Now in yin postures, 5 to 7 minutes is pretty traditional to hold them in a class situation, but that gives the connective tissue time to kind of soften a little bit. Now connective tissue also helps strengthen the muscles, so we're strengthening the muscles and yet bringing more flexibility into the muscles by releasing some of the tight connective tissue. And also because we're working in specific areas and using props, she can relax her, so it becomes very, very meditative. This is basically a supported fish pose with a Baddha Konasana or butterfly legs together. Oh yeah, this is awesome here. So I say this every time with class, and I'll tell you at home too. If you've already got yourself in this, this is just for demonstration purposes right now. Do not raise yourself off of that block. Do what, Mandy? Roll to one side or the other. Now I'm going to move her props out of the way because sometimes that can create, even though it's very relaxing, it can also, you need to relieve that. So, you know, sometimes from there, if that, you can just move the shoulders around, maybe go into a few cow and cat for them, Mandy, from that, because that'll start to soften in. So in her cow and cat, her hands are about shoulder width apart, her knees are about hip width apart, and she's just, reaching up, lifting the chest up to the sky into a cow pose, and then she's rounding down into a cat. Now that can release any other tensions that may still be arising in her body. Just go ahead and do one more of those. There we go. Beautiful form. She raises her tailbone first on the inhale, and then she levels it out on the exhale. Okay. Now from there, when she shift back into child's pose with knees wide. So moving into child's pose, this is another yin posture that we often do. This, as much as she's able to, she's going to push her hips back toward her heels. This also will work into the hip flexors. I have the knees wide because sometimes our body shapes will just work better with the knees wide as opposed to trying to finagle your torso through. So it makes it much easier, more accessible. Now, sometimes in class we have the arms working, but hers are relaxed here. So Mandy, I want you to go ahead and take your hands down by your ankles a little bit, and then just let those shoulders round over. Oh my goodness, this is great for relieving any kind of tension out of the back. And her forehead is connected to the earth. Usually when our forehead is connected to the earth, I really like this because it presses against particular nerves and part of the brain that just cause a sense of relaxation anyway. And so that forehead is there. Now this is also a great time for her to just inhale and exhale, because what else you can do in this posture when once you relax into it completely and just inhaling and exhaling. We already know that Mandy likes yin for the meditative quality. And she's very active, she likes to bike ride, she works out in the gym quite a bit, so these are good physical postures for her as well, to relieve hamstrings and hips and things that get tight from the workouts that she does. Okay, so Mandy, so you're gonna kind of roll up a little bit and extend your legs out in front of you. Legs in front of her, get your butt flush out of the way just a little bit. Yeah. All God's children got butt flush, I say it all the time. So if we're doing a traditional posture, this would be closer to a staff position. That's ice coming off of the roof. We're grateful for a little bit melting today. But I want you to, let me get a block for you. Love to crawl around the knees here. Place that between your legs. And forward fold over, relaxing the spine completely, and have the block connecting off. So her legs are relaxed. Normally in a class I would help people flex their feet, but in this one, no. This is also working into the hamstring area.
Very much so.
Yeah. She said very much so. So I tell you at home, if it's too intense, you can just micro bend the knees a little bit, and that relieves a little bit of that pressure, or even put a towel up underneath the knees during this posture. She's just softening and rounding over. Once again, she has the forehead connecting. She's a nice forward fold here. Her arms and shoulders, so she's really working out the tension in the shoulders, and she's breathing. That's really what it's all about, is that breathing, breathing, breathing. Now Mandy, go ahead and come up out of this one. Take the block and set it off to the side. And I want you to kind of, is a cow face good for you or not good for you? Okay, so cow face is knee on top of, yes, knee on top of knee. Yeah, there we go. It's cow face pose. From this one here is really going to work into the hips quite a bit. Now, very often, now if this is not doable for, so what's the modification for that? Bottom leg is straight up.
Yes.
Yes. So if you can't get both knees on top of one another, then you can straighten out the bottom leg and then cross the knee over. So we'll look at the modified form first, and then she'll go into the fold. So just fold over and relax over that. Now with this modification, she's working into the hamstring and into that outer front hip. And this is the modified form. Most people are able to do it. Now, one thing that I do notice about with the men in my class, they tend to have a really hard time with this. We'll talk about that when I interview a guy coming up about their specific problems. So a lot of the men have the foot on the floor and their leg is up a little bit more. I just tell them to get in whatever they can get and be mindfully comfortable for 5 to 7 minutes. So if you have to modify at home, that's perfectly fine. So Mandy, come up and go into the full form. So in this one, she's going to do the same thing, but if her hips roll up off of the floor, she has to back herself up. So very often students will try to go, like they'll try to connect to the floor and then their hips pop up off. So we want the bum on the floor. And so if you have to have your hands pushing yourself out, or if you're able to relax completely in it, that's fine. This is the full form of it. And so there's little variations that you can add as well. So from in our cow face, walk your hands over toward the right a little bit. So we can add a little bit of twisting. Now, are both hips still connected to the earth? Both hips are still connected. If they weren't, I would ask her to move her hands back toward the center just a little bit. So this is adding a little bit of a twist into that. Now, Mandy, if you will, come up, keep your legs the way they are, but let's work into a little bit of a side twist. So she has a block on one side of her, and just put it on this side so they can see it first, but put it on the flattest setting. So she's still in our cow phase, but she's going to put her right hand on that block, and the left arm is going to come up, and then it's just going to kind of come over, and then we can kind of relax the arm a little bit. So we're not having to hold it up in the air. Maybe just let the forearm rest right on the side of the head, just adding a little bit more. I would not hold people in this for 5 to 7 minutes probably. They wouldn't come back maybe the next week. So just a little bit of a twist. We get a nice deep side opening whenever you feel that in your side area. Yeah, so nice deep side opening here a little bit. And then maybe if that feels okay, you can just twist over toward the side, toward the right a little bit maybe, and just kind of folding forward a little bit. And we're working into the shoulders and to the hips. And we can come up out of that one. And we have that one. So now we need to do one for hamstring, specifically for hamstring. So I'm gonna have her place each one block underneath the knee. Yep. And the other one maybe, just go ahead and put them both, yeah, go ahead and use them both, that way you don't have to crowd your knees up together. Now this, we're gonna have her go back into that forward fold, but she's gonna tell us the difference, what she feels with the knees bent and supported, okay? So you just kinda come and fold over. Do you feel a difference in the hamstring there?
Much easier.
It's much easier. So this is that modified. This is what you can do at home. Put your towel or your block up underneath there and just kind of soften over. Now, Mandy, they can see that, so I want you to take your left block out and have one leg on the floor and one leg over. Now, do you feel how the shift happens? What happens in the shift?
It's all pulling more on the left
And hardly any on. So we're concentrating onto this one extended leg. And she may or may not, but most students will feel a little bit in that IT band as well, a little bit on the outside, stretch of the leg.
Yeah, for me, it's all, I'm very, they say dead in my hamstring. So I'll always feel a lot more.
In the IT?
Yes.
Okay, so I don't know if you could hear that or not, she said she's considered dead in the hamstring, so she doesn't tend to feel as much there, but she feels more into the IT band. That probably has more to do with your sports, the different type of sporting activities, or just maybe her body build. Everybody's body is completely and totally different. So then, go ahead and switch place the block under the other one, and just so you get a little bit, I know we're not doing a full class here, but at least you can get leveled out that way. Oh, yeah.
That
So
feels good.
it feels good. It feels really good for her. That's awesome. And from here, we're gonna kind of roll ourselves up a little bit, and come on to hands and knees for me. So raise that left arm up into the air, and then straight up and open your chest up to the sky. Now bring it behind the right elbow and lay on the outside of the right shoulder, like thread the needle. So there we go. Yeah, like that. So this, and then take this, there we go. You reach it and extend it forward. So this is a thread the needle posture, pretty common, and we can hold this probably for 5 to 7 minutes fairly easily in a class. Most of us can. So she's really working into this shoulder, but she's working into this one as well. So it's like double mint gum or something. I mean, I don't even know if you guys know what that is. But anyway, she's working into both shoulders, but in a different area and aspect. She's on her knees here, so if her knees were uncomfortable, and you can at home take a blanket or another yoga mat if you have one, and use that to soften the knees a little bit. Her hips are reaching up. She's getting a nice extension of the spine here. She's working into both shoulders at the same time. So great form. Now, Mandy, I want you to come back up onto all fours, and then we'll keep your hips up high. We'll walk your hands out into puppy pose. So she's gonna, into puppy, which is having the arms extended out far and the hips are reaching up. Beautiful. Now really high hip, but again, she's working in the length and extension of the spine. She's working into softening those areas of the shoulders. Let me tell you, people who work, they have a lot of stress and tension up here in the back and in the shoulders, so we want to make sure that she doesn't. The forward folds work into the lower back, not just into the hamstring. All the forward folds we've done so far give some length and extension to the lower spine. Oh, it's some good juicy stuff. So Mandy, walk yourself back up, and then sit facing our friends, and have your legs out wide, into a wide stance. Now put your hands behind you, lift your hips up off of the floor, and scoot them forward a little bit. There we go. Now, you feel the difference in lighting up?
Yes.
Now she's gonna work on sitting up nice and straight. I know, but it's effective. It's not painful though, right?
No, it's a good pain.
It's a good pain. I might have to edit out. That's right.
It's a good stretch.
Yeah. So she's working into the inner thigh here. Let me tell you, the inner thighs, they don't get a whole lot of work like in a workout. But boy, if you ever injure one, oh mama, those things take terrible time forever. So I don't want her to kind of go past her stretching point, but I do want her to go to that point of challenge. That's why I had her scoot forward a little bit. So we are working into the inner thigh just a touch, and I'm going to get her a block, and I'm going to ask her to come into a forward fold here, relaxing the legs completely. Yeah, she wiggled them back in. Smart girl. She knew that might be too far. So again, she's working into the shoulders, but also in this stance, she's really working into the inner thigh to release that muscle there and tendons and what on the inner thigh muscles, because they don't get a lot of things in. They're those things that they're there and they're supporting our legs all the time, but unless we do something specific for them, we kind of forget that they're there. We tend to think more about our quadriceps because they get a lot of workout if we lift weights or if we run or ride bicycle or whatever. But with the nice rounding, she's once again working the shoulders, but what else? Into the lower back. The lower back, and also maybe into a little bit of hamstring here. But what she's really doing in a class with the Dart, with the Reiki, is she is relaxing her mind by holding these postures. Now, very often in yin postures, we can get wiggly because our mind is so active. So what I tell students to do is feel free to wiggle a little bit and then come right back into the posture if you're able to. Because I don't want students to get agitated or irritated by having to hold a posture for very long when they're not comfortable at all. They're having a little bit of pain or whatever. So that's an important thing for you to remember at home, or if you're ever in a live yin class. If something is causing you agitation and irritation to a point of very uncomfortable, go ahead and adjust a little bit and then come back into it whenever you're ready. Because if there's one thing that yin will do is it will bring underlying emotions to the forefront. That's part of its meditative quality. It's not at all uncommon for students to cry or get mad at me. I tell you,
I have cried.
I'm not sure if she raised her hand for crying or getting mad at me.
No,
I
just
have,
cried.
Okay. I have had students get mad at me. I used to get mad at yin teachers because but I wasn't really mad at them. I was just mad at whatever was under the surface, bubbling up underneath. So the more that I would soften my mind into the posture, the more that I would relax not only my body so I could go deeper into the flexibility, but also relieve that tension out of my mind. So they're just beautifully paired together,
Yes.
the mind and body. Okay, Mandy, so we're gonna go ahead and come up. You need to set that block off to the side a little bit. These are some traditionals. I will record a full yin class at some point, coming up. I want you to hear about it first and the conversations, and also, is it okay if they follow you on?
Of course.
Do you want me to go
So,
by what your Facebook?
Yes, my Facebook's just Mandy Darnay Singer. And if you want to follow me on Instagram, it's Cow Lamb Iris, all one word.
Cow Lamb Iris?
Yes.
I'm gonna have to give a story about that. Cow Lamb Iris, all right. The flower or a person?
The flower.
Flower, okay.
Yes.
So, anyway, if you didn't hear that, Mandy Darn Singer is what she goes by on Facebook. And then Instagram was Cow Lamb Iris,
all
okay.
one word.
Yeah, and just follow her. She's so much fun, and she just has people from all over the world, so that's a lot of fun too. And wonderful dad. Her dad was here visiting for a
Yes.
month, and he came
2 months.
2 months.
2
Okay,
months
he came
from
to the
South
classes. Absolutely loved George. Hi, George.
Hi, Dad.
Yeah. So he'll see this, but we miss you, by the way, very, very much. So, Mandy, I just want to thank you so much for coming in and joining this time together.
Thank you for asking me. to
Oh,
come and join you.
absolutely, absolutely. So, I bow to you, you bow to me, and together we say namaste. Thank you, guys. I appreciate
Thank
it.